It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football,
Wildcat
football,
Wildcat
football,
Wildcat
football,
I got it.
football,
Wildcat
football,
Wildcat.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 3, episode 10, week 10. So if you're watching, remember, please like, subscribe on YouTube. All right, so week 10, we have 4 teams on bye this week. The Patriots, the Jets, the Bengals, and the Ravens. First game. Oh, shoot. On the slate is it Munich, Germany?
Munich, Germany. First game ever in Germany.
How much do you think these players hate this? Like, if I was Tom Brady, I would be like seriously pissed I have to go to Germany.
They all seem like they're on board. Like, it's definitely an NFL promotion.
All right. So, Steve, you had some valuable insights into this game earlier. So hopefully you remember what those were, because I'm going to let you take the lead.
Nah, I don't remember what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
You were talking about how you have Tom Brady, who's like the GOAT. And then you have, who obviously they're not living up to snuff this year. And then you have Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, who nobody had many expectations for, almost like the roles are reversed.
Go run with it, girl.
So that was your insight. I don't know what that meant in terms of like who was going to win or lose this game, but that was your insight.
All right.
You had your warning that I was going to do that earlier too. All right. So this game is tough for me because it is Tom Brady, and they desperately need this win. But somehow Seattle keeps winning. And I kind of tried to reverse psychology myself last week and say that I was buying into the Seahawks, but I was still taking the Cardinals, and that didn't work. So I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to take Seattle. I don't know what that means, but the way that the Bucs have been playing, I don't see them blowing anybody out. The line is -2.5 in favor of Tampa Bay. So maybe Tampa Bay wins, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. So they win by a point. It's a win-win, right?
Well, you're taking Seattle on this one.
Yeah, I think I got to.
So the NFL is going to Germany for their first game and marketing their best player probably over the last 15 years. And your favorite player and the guy whose jersey you're wearing, and you're going to take Seattle in this game?
What did I just say? Were you listening to what I just said? Maybe they win by a point.
Maybe. Listen, people aren't looking for maybes. They're looking for what's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here right now, okay?
Okay.
This is, I think, what you were alluding to. All right. And this is kind of a crazy game, right? Because what I was saying earlier was...
Oh, now you remember.
There's Tampa, and there's a couple other teams like the Rams, right, who are like big disappointments this season.
Yes.
Right. You expect big things. The Rams won the Super Bowl last year. Tampa Bay was right there. Tom's coming back for his last year.
So you figure that they're
going to put well, who knows, right? But
it was his last year to save his marriage.
The thing is that Seattle is the opposite of all those teams, right? Nobody was expecting anything out of Seattle. Nobody's expecting anything out of Geno Smith. And they're in first place in the West. So what I was saying is this is actually if you've been paying attention the last couple of weeks, I've been going with a buck to trend game. And this is my buck to trend. We're coming out firing, right? I love Tampa Bay in this game. And I'll tell you why. Because the NFL is going and stepping into Germany for their first ever game. And they're putting their pony boy, Tom Brady, up front and center for all the country to see. And Tom Brady, after that miserable first half of the season, miserable 3 and I would say most of the fourth quarter last week until they got the last drive and were able to take the lead over the Rams on a touchdown with how many, 30 seconds left. That's going to click in Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're ready to roll. That's the way I feel. This is a buck to trend game. The trend is Tampa Bay is 0-6-1 in their last 7 games against the spread. All right. Seattle's 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. So both of those, we're going to buck both of those trends that favor Seattle for this week And we're going to take Tampa. Tampa's back on the roll, and we're going to see how they're going to propel themselves into first place and separate themselves from Atlanta here, who's in second place in the South, the NFC South. And Tampa Bay should cruise as they get themselves prepared and ready and back on track and ready for the playoffs. Tampa. Take them.
Okay. All right. Next game is the Houston Texans.
I can't believe you're not taking Tampa. You're wearing a jersey. I thought for sure you were going to
to
take
the
them.
extent, like, and I heard that on the radio earlier, like the NFL is going to Germany. So that's fine if you buy that logic. But I had the misfortune of watching the Bucs game last week, and it's brutal because every first down, they hand the ball to Leonard Fournette. He gets 1 yard. It's 2nd and 9, and it's just painful to watch. So unless they're getting this thing all straightened out on this plane ride over, like, I just don't see how it happens. And I'm not to say that things don't happen in the NFL that don't make sense. But if you watch what's been happening with the Bucs last few weeks, like, I just don't see it. I hope the Bucs win.
All right, next game we got Houston Texans going to the New York Giants. The Giants are 5.5-point favorites at home. They opened up at 6.5, so the public's bet that down a point, which is surprising to me because the Giants typically get a lot of that New York money, and I thought this number at home would go up, not down. Thoughts on this game?
I like the Giants. I don't have a lot of science to it. We saw what Derrick Henry did to the Texans a couple weeks ago. You have the Giants coming off the bye week with Saquon Barkley. I like what Daboll's doing. They lost their first game in a while before the bye to Seattle. So I think this is a good spot for the Giants. I mean, it feels weird taking the Giants as a 5.5-point favorite, but against the Texans, I think you got to do it.
It should feel weird, and it is weird to take 5.5 against the Giants because the Giants suck, and there's no way they should be 5.5-point favorites against anybody in the NFL. I'll take Houston in the points all day.
Okay. All right. Next game, Denver Broncos at the Tennessee Titans. We also have the Denver Broncos coming off a bye. It sounds like Tannehill will be back at the helm for the Titans this week. I worry a little bit that the Titans put it all out there last week in that game against the Chiefs, which they did lose on the scoreboard, but I think they won on the field, and I don't care what anybody says. Broncos do have a good defense. They're pretty good at holding the opponent's points down, but I think they can get Derrick Henry going in this one as long as Tannehill is back. I could see this finishing within the points. It is 2.5 in favor of Tennessee right now, but I would take the Titans up to 3.
Yeah, I think that you started going down the right road here with the fact that they left it all out on the field last week against Kansas City. And even though they did lose that game, I think that this is going to be a letdown game. I look for Denver to kind of bounce back, have their best game of the season against Tennessee. I think Tennessee is very overrated, and this is a bad spot for them coming off that Kansas City game.
I feel like they just don't get enough respect.
I feel like they're overrated.
I feel like they never get respect.
I feel like if you could just pile the box.
Look at what they did last week.
Yeah, but nobody's
look at what they did last week. Don't you think that that's what Andy Reid was thinking? Well, if I can just pile the box and stop Derrick Henry.
I don't feel like they stacked the box well enough, and they look small up front. I think Tennessee's going to have problems when they actually get somebody who knows what they're doing.
And Russell Wilson and
Denver's defense is much better.
Hackett know what they're doing. They're good against
Russell
the
Wilson
pass.
Doesn't play defense and doesn't stop the run.
But they're good against the pass.
Do you give any credit to the fact that they just pulled off a trade, and amongst the members of that trade is Chase Edmonds from Miami is now. But they also traded away. Position.
Didn't they trade away? And now I'm drawing a blank on the name, like Chubb or something. One of their defensive end. Yeah. Run stopper.
But I think because they have enough defense, they're stacked on defense and they're light on offense. So that's a good trade. Move some of your defensive end. They shouldn't lose too much on their defense from trading Chubb. But I think that their running back position has been, they just signed before they made this trade, Latavius Murray, right?
What's your point?
And they had no solid running back there. Chase Edmonds gives them a little bit more stability. Plus, you still have Murray and the guy from the Chargers,
Gordon.
Melvin Gordon, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to look to Denver as they start to implement this new offense in the beginning of the season, and with a new quarterback, you should see Denver get stronger as the season progresses here, as they get on the same page. You should have
seen a lot of things, I think, out of Denver so far, and we haven't. So let me just say this. People
are expecting a new coach and a new quarterback to come in and just perform miracles and then everybody to be on the same page. And it seems odd to me that everybody's expecting too much out of the Denver Broncos right out of the gate. The Broncos are 3-5.
Expecting something out of Russell Wilson. Well, and they've gotten nothing out of Russell Wilson.
Exactly. We'll see if we can get. I think that this is the start, much like Tampa.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you have Tennessee circled on your sheet then?
I had Tennessee with the question mark.
Okay.
I don't like Tennessee.
So you changed your mind all of a sudden?
No, when I went through, I looked at Tennessee and I don't like them.
Okay, good.
Does it matter what my sheet says? What does your sheet say?
I'm just asking a question.
Well, what are you talking about? I don't like Tennessee.
My sheet says Tennessee.
Don't worry about what my sheet says. Worry about what's coming out of my mouth.
All right, good. I would bet you, but I don't want to. What's in that? I don't want to jinx the.
What's in that?
What's in that? Ice.
Oh my God. It all makes sense now.
Jake asked me earlier. He's like, what is that? I was like, ice.
It's ice.
All right. Next game, Detroit at Chicago. It opened at -2.5 in favor of Chicago. It's up to -3 in favor of Chicago. So I really don't know what to do with Chicago. We saw them beat the Patriots. They lost pretty handily, I think, to the Cowboys. Went toe-to-toe with the Dolphins last week. So I think the difference is they're actually using Justin Fields as a runner. Are they going to do it here? I'm not sure what their motivation is, like, from the coaching staff. And I don't know if the Detroit defense can handle the running quarterback. They have not faced a running quarterback. So we also have Jared Goff, California boy, playing outside in Chicago. Dan Campbell is 0-11-1 on the road. And the Lions have lost 6 straight after a win, which they haven't had a lot of wins. But so it doesn't really feel right, but I got to take the Bears here.
Like the Bears? We're pretty much opposite on every game so far. I like the Lions. They're 0-3 on the road, but I think that this is a spot for them where everybody's looking at how well Chicago played and Fields played against Miami last week. It looked like they really just didn't game plan for a running quarterback at all on the Miami sideline.
But do you think Detroit can?
I think Detroit is way more familiar with Chicago being in the same division. They saw Fields twice last year. Dan Campbell has
They didn't see Fields twice.
Well, they saw him once, right?
They saw Dalton. Wasn't Dalton?
Both games?
I looked at this before, and I don't think.
Point is, they're more familiar with what Fields brings because he plays in a division. These division teams are familiar with what other teams in the division are trying to do, and they're scouting them the entire season. These division games are way more important. Chicago's 3-6. Detroit,
what about the fact that you say these division games are important?
You're going to cut me off every time I'm trying to make a point. I'm just going to ask you a question. What's going on?
Detroit beat Green Bay last week. Division. Like, to the extent you think Tennessee put it all out there on the field last week, do you think Detroit put it all out there on the field last week?
No, I think that Chicago put it out on the field last week, and they still came up short. I don't think Chicago's that good of a team. I don't think Detroit's that good of a team. Detroit is 2-6, and Chicago's 3-6, so they're very close in the record. I look at this game as Detroit getting their first division game on the road, the first road win. So I like Detroit.
All right. I mean, I don't feel good about it, and I could totally see it going the opposite, but I got to go with the Bears. All right. Next game is the Cleveland Browns at the Miami Dolphins. Open at -4.5 in favor of the Dolphins. It's down to -3.5. We also have Cleveland coming off a bye. Cleveland obviously wants to run the ball. Miami's defense did not play very well last week against the Bears, but they are good against the run, which is obviously what Cleveland wants to do. I don't know that Brissett can keep up with Tua the way that Fields did last week. Although I was originally like totally on Miami in this. And then I kind of thought, like, is this line not right? Like, should Miami be favored by more? And obviously it's been bet down already. So I like the Dolphins, but I think the right pick is Cleveland, especially with that hook on there. What are your thoughts on this game?
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We've talked 4 games so far. I like the Tampa pick, is the buck to trend the most until we get to this game. This is my best play, maybe best play of the week. I'll have to go through the rest of the games when we get, and I'll tell you if there's a game I like better than the Cleveland Browns here. But Miami, again, showed that they struggled on defense. I think there's a revenge factor here playing with the quarterback who used to be the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins before Tua came. So Brissett, I think, is motivation to go into Miami. I really, and win the game. I really do like the extra hook that is on the game at plus 3.5. I'll give you a couple stats, Jack. Cleveland 7-1 against the spread in the last 8 versus Miami. And Miami is 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games overall. So when you combine those stats, it tells me this is a big Cleveland win. I think that the public is going to be all over the Dolphins. And this is one of those games where the obvious pick here looks like the Dolphins. Don't be a fool. Take Cleveland and cash in.
I agree with that, but only because
you thought of it first?
No, because that's what I was totally on the Dolphins
It's
until
one of those games where it's like it looks so obvious. Miami, go the other way.
So
that's where I'm at with you.
We're on the right side of or they're on the same side of that one. Hopefully
we're on the right side.
All right. So next game is the Minnesota Vikings at the Buffalo Bills. Opened at -8.5 in favor of Buffalo. It's at -3.5 in favor of Buffalo. Obviously, everybody should know by now that Josh Allen is dealing with his elbow thing.
Everybody knows.
Hopefully. Sounds like he won't play. He is questionable right now, but from everything I've heard, it sounds like he's not going to play. I think the change in the line reflects that. So the backup there is Case Keenum. This game is going to be in Buffalo, so there are some weather concerns there. I think this is definitely the best defense that Kirk Cousins is going to face. And we kind of saw him struggle last week with Washington. Heineke kind of gave that game to him at the end, but they were all set up on that one. So I could still see Buffalo winning this game with Case Keenum, but can I take Case Keenum at 3.5 point favorite? I imagine this line will go down a little bit more once Josh Allen is officially ruled out. And it kind of sucks because this would have been a great game if Allen was healthy. So like I said, I could totally see Buffalo winning at this point at 3.5, assuming that Allen's not going to play. I think you got to take the Vikings, but I don't know if I really want to touch it at all.
So this is a real odd one with the whole Josh Allen thing, right? Because just this afternoon, coaches on TV saying he's hour to hour, not even day to day.
Yeah, which
tells me
bizarre.
that he's closer to playing, right? So it's not a UCL, it's a sprained elbow. So it's just a matter of time before his elbow gets back. But I don't understand why you would even risk playing him this week. I think they're probably a little bit too close to the situation after losing last week to the Jets. So they feel a little more pressure, like they have to win because the Jets are nipping at their heels. But I mean, literally, they should just sit him, let him rest. The Super Bowl's not won in November. That's the way I feel about it. But I digress. I think even if I'm not anticipating him playing. So then, like you said, it comes to Case Keenum. And I think very similar to the Miami-Cleveland game, this is a case where Case Keenum, who used to quarterback the Minnesota Vikings in 2017, took him to the NFC Championship. He gets a shot to go back up against Minnesota here for Buffalo. I don't think it matters who the quarterback is against Minnesota. Minnesota is not very good on the road. The line was at 8.5. It's down to 3.5. That's mostly because of the Josh Allen status, right? And I don't think, is anticipating him playing. But the game might get down to 3 by the time kickoff comes, especially if when Case Keenum gets announced as the starting quarterback for the Vikings or for the Buffalo Bills. But again, I don't think it's going to matter here. I think the Bills have a solid foundation and enough talent around them that even with the injuries that they're dealing with Poyer's out. They got a big defensive lineman that's out. I think you still take the Bills here. And the Vikings are not a team that I want to put money on the road, especially against a good Buffalo team.
All right, next game is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Kansas City Chiefs, opened and is at -9.5 in favor of the Chiefs. So obviously, Chiefs had a rough game last week against Tennessee. They did pull out the victory in overtime. I think this is their chance to get back on track and show what they're made of. Jacksonville's defense hasn't been that good. I think if the Chiefs can get out to a lead and force the Jags to abandon the run, they're going to have to put it in Trevor Lawrence's hands. And we've seen him in a couple games where he's got the game in his hands, throw some picks in the end zone and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it is a big line. I hate to take a line this big, but I'm going with the Chiefs.
I like the other way. Just a lot of points. Doug Peterson coming back to Kansas City where, he is under the Andy Reid coaching tree, first in Philadelphia and then Kansas City. I think that Doug will have these guys ready to play. I like what they're doing with ETN now that he's been given the starting nod at running back. Trevor Lawrence is looking stronger and stronger with his decision-making each week. I don't think that Jacksonville can win this game, but I think they can keep it within 9.5.
Okay. Opposite side again there. All right. Next game is the New Orleans Saints at the Pittsburgh Steelers. It opened at -3 in favor of the Saints. It's down to -1.5. Pittsburgh also coming off the bye. They are home dog in this one. I don't know if it's official, but it sounds like TJ Watt will be back this week. And I think he is a difference maker on the Steelers defense. This is another game similar to last week where Dalton formerly played for the Bengals and was in the same division as the Pittsburgh Steelers. Andy Dalton is 3-13 versus Pittsburgh historically. It is a 1:00 game, so that's good for Andy Dalton, but this is just a fucking disaster for me, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, it definitely looks like JT Watt's coming back this week. TJ, sorry. It's right in front of my face, so I still said it wrong. I don't know. I was leaning towards the Saints in this game. Basically, Pittsburgh's 1-8 in their last 9 against the NFC, so they haven't fared well recently going out of conference. It scares me a little bit that Watt's back. But again, you're dealing with the rookie quarterback on the Pittsburgh side, and I'm going to take the veteran quarterback with the Saints. I think that Alvin Kamara enough is going to give them fits on the defensive line. And I look for him to have a big day running the ball in Pittsburgh. I'll take New Orleans.
All right. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with it, period. All right. So moving into the 4:00 games. If you're watching, remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. I had to write that in because I always forget.
That's a good job.
So I figured the transition from 1 to 4 was a good spot.
But you said that in the beginning.
I did. And I'm going to say it in the beginning and the middle and the end. All right. So next game is the Indianapolis Colts at the Las Vegas Raiders. Open at -3.5 in favor of the Raiders. It's up to -4.5 in favor of the Raiders. So obviously a lot to say about this game. First and foremost, I'm going to submit my resume to Irsay because what the hell, right? So they obviously fired Frank Reich. Last week, they fired their offensive coordinator. They hired Jeff Saturday, who has absolutely no coaching experience other than like high school. No one on the coaching staff has any experience actually calling plays in an NFL game. I'm not like familiar with all the logistics, but like, is Jeff Saturday even going to know what the plays are?
Well, they're going to be Jeff Saturday's plays, right?
But they're not. I mean, he hasn't had enough time to make his own plays.
No, I think that's part of the strategy here. They had him come in just to kind of be on top, leading everybody.
Well,
but he's going to stay out of the way. He's not going to dictate the game plan.
But who is?
Whoever the offensive coordinator was.
He's gone. He got fired 2 weeks ago.
I don't know what they're doing.
But here's what they're doing. Like, personally, I think that Jim Irsay wants to control what happens. And he was the one that wanted Ellinger to take the starting role. And when they announced him officially as the starter for the rest of the season, which was bizarre. And I think Frank Reich kind of stood up to him a little bit. And I think that's why he got fired. So I think he wants to, and I think his name is Joe Thomas. He's like an ex-Cleveland Brown. He was on like one of those football shows called Jeff Saturday, Irsay's drinking buddy, which I don't know if that's good. But I feel like he wants to control what's happening, and that's why he hires his drinking buddy. So I feel like it's a lose-lose for Saturday because he's got no experience. He's got to come in here and try to not be embarrassed, but yet like he's kind of just the puppet for Irsay. So he's going to be embarrassed no matter what happens.
Well, if you look at what Irsay's had to deal with over the last couple of years, bringing Wentz in, losing Andrew Luck, I think he's probably made a decision with it being a strong quarterback, supposedly, allegedly a strong quarterback draft next year. He's putting himself in a position to get one of those quarterbacks. You don't have to be the first overall pick of the draft to get one of these guys, right? So they're 3-5-1. They're playing against the Raiders. I think you can pretty much with the move like you're talking about with Saturday being named the head coach with Frank Reich gone. I mean, tell me why you have Frank Reich as your head coach and you have Nick Foles, who just won the Super Bowl in 2017 with the Eagles with Frank as the offensive coordinator. Why wouldn't you give that a run? Why wouldn't you give that a shot?
Because you know what Nick Foles is, right?
But why wouldn't you give that a shot? I thought that the plan was let's get Ellinger in there and prove that he can't do any well. Get it a little closer to the end of the season because you don't expect Nick Foles to stand up for the whole season and stay healthy. Get him into like at least November. And then get Nick playing a little bit. Hopefully he can get them into the playoffs and see if he can get lightning in the bottle. Maybe they've lost too many games for that now. But to not even give Nick Foles a shot with Frank Reich still there is beyond me. Why would you bring him in?
But I think that's what Frank Reich maybe wanted to do. But
that's probably what he wanted to do. And that's why they announced that Ellinger would be the quarterback for the rest of the year, because there's no reason to make that announcement. Even if you want him to be the quarterback, the only reason why you would make that announcement is to be kind of like draw a line in the sand to say,
right, but that was
like your point, everything that you were saying, like he's in control. He wanted to kind of stick his chest out and show Frank Reich. I think Irsay's losing his mind. I mean, some of the decisions he's making is very stupid. So, curse to them. See you later, Indy. I'll take Las Vegas. I think this is exactly what they need. Obviously they're only 2-6, but they have a lot more talent and a lot bigger expectations than their 2-6 record shows so far. They're 4-1, the Vegas Raiders, against the spread in their last 5 at home. So even with the 2-6 record, they played pretty well at home. I think Indianapolis is cashing it in, like you said. So, I mean, I don't even know how much more you want to talk about this game, but go for it.
Well, I don't, but I personally, I think that Josh McDaniels, like if he doesn't win this game, he is going to be the next coach that gets fired this season. Yeah. Like I would fire him.
He might not make it to the end. All right.
So, all right.
So you're Vegas or nothing? Who do you like in this game?
No, I'm gonna take Vegas, and I don't see
-4.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sticky taking the Raiders, who again are 2-6.
Well, I mean, could you possibly put your money on the Colts?
No, not at this point.
So
it's hard to take the Raiders too.
Yeah. All right. So I wish he'd gotten fired last week and went up against the Patriots this week, and I would put literally all my money in my bank account on that one. But all right, next game is the Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. Open at -3 in favor of the Rams. It's at -1.5. So we have Matt Stafford in concussion protocol. Not sure whether he actually has a concussion or when this even really started. I don't know with everything that's happened this year with the concussions, whether he can be cleared before the game. We have Kyler Murray with a hamstring. As of today, he's a game time decision, which I thought was kind of weird because I think you fell asleep last night, but I watched the first episode of Hard Knocks, and it looked like it happened in the first half of the game against Seattle, and he played through it. So I was kind of under the impression that he would play this week, but he is officially a game time decision. So, I mean, that has me a little worried. He is going to be missing his center and his guard, Garcia, again this week. They've already been ruled out. I don't know if you can do much with this game because we don't even know whether we're going to have either of the starting quarterbacks at this point. I think if no Stafford and Kyler Murray plays, I would take the Cardinals. If neither starting quarterback plays, then I don't know what you do.
Who's the Rams backup?
The Rams backup is John Wolford.
Oh, okay.
And the Cardinals backup is Colt McCoy.
Yeah, I know he's Colt McCoy. All right. So that's pretty tough, but I think that the Rams are struggling with Stafford, and they're probably better giving him a break. It's tough to really make a too strong of a call here because of the uncertainty of the quarterback position. But I was coming into this leading towards Arizona because I was on Arizona last week and they were disappointed, right? And usually when that happens, I get mad and I go the other way, and then I get double burned because the team that just burned me shows up the next week.
Well,
so I feel like this is an Arizona bounce back week. And they can get the Rams.
I've bet so many Arizona bounce back weeks that I just don't have it in me anymore. Historically, Sean McVay is 6-1 against Kingsbury in this matchup. So, but I don't know if it's an even matchup at this point.
Well, I'll give you some bad numbers against the Rams, right? They are 2-7-1 in their last 10 against the spread. They're 1-5 in their last 6 at home against the spread. So those are numbers that don't sound too good if you're going to look to take the Rams. I'm going to take the Cardinals regardless in this one. I'm going to stay with them.
Okay. I mean, I think if it comes down to a battle of the backups, I would side with Colt McCoy, but all right. So next game is the Dallas Cowboys at the Green Bay Packers, opened at -2.5 in favor of the Cowboys. It's up to -4.5. Cowboys also coming off a bye week here. We have Mike McCarthy returning to Lambeau in his revenge game. Aaron Jones left the game last week. He is questionable going into this week. It used to be that betting on Aaron Rodgers was where you made your money. Now it feels like betting against him is the best course of action. And this is probably one of my favorite games of the week. I don't see the ship turning around. And if they couldn't get it done against Detroit last week, I don't see how they're going to get it done against the Cowboys this week.
Yeah, I've been off the Packers pretty much the whole season. I'm going to stay off of them against Dallas as well. I like Dallas.
Next game is the Los Angeles Chargers at the San Francisco 49ers. Open at -3.5 in favor of San Fran. It's all the way up to 7. We have San Fran, last team coming off the bye this week, 6 teams last week. Chargers will still be without Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Can we call it quits with you? Chargers are really bad against the run. We've seen that the last few weeks. What does San Francisco like to do? Run the ball. We have Kyle Shanahan with extra time to prepare and his new shiny toy in Christian McCaffrey. So this is also one of my favorite games of the week, the San Francisco 49ers. Also, this is one of the primetime games, so I always like to pay attention to where the money is on these, and I was surprised and happy to see that it is on the Chargers, so that reinforces my pick on the 49ers.
Yeah, it's tough really to love the Chargers here. I mean, Keenan Allen, again, they have no wide receivers with Mike Williams out. So I want to take the Chargers here. I think everybody's on San Francisco too much. And, there's the line's up to 7 points. It's tough to lay 7 with San Francisco. I want to take the Chargers here. I'm going to leave it alone, but I wouldn't take the 49ers. I just think it looks like a trap.
Okay. All right. Last game is the Monday night game. The Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles at -10.5 in favor of Philly. This is a division game. These teams played back in week 3. The Eagles won that game pretty handily, 24-8, but that was Carson Wentz. Primetime game, big number. I got to take the Commanders here. I'm not saying that they win, but I think it probably finishes within that number.
Yeah, so the number's already up to 11 from 10.5. So who knows? It's Friday night. By the time Monday comes around, this might be up even higher. We'll have to see. But I'm going to keep rolling with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that
big number last week against the Texans didn't cover.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference here is that they're at home underneath the bright lights in front of their home fans.
But wasn't Texas where your quarterback was from? This is big homecoming, big chance to play. I saw that. It was on the broadcast. Maybe you didn't see it because you were at the Phillies game.
Yeah, so it gives even more reason why they didn't cover, because he had a lot of pressure on him because he had a lot of home fans.
Oh, so he doesn't do well under pressure. He's not going to cover the number under pressure?
I really don't even know what your point is, why you're bringing up last week's game. We're talking about this week's game against the Commanders.
Okay.
I like the Eagles. I think they're going to blow the hell out of the Commanders. They're going to blow them out. and they're in trouble. Case Heineke's going to get at least 2 interceptions in this game. Like I said, it's Monday night underneath the lights. Look what happened in Minnesota when they came to town and on Monday night. And I think Washington's going to be met with a similar fate. I'm looking at like 28-31 to 7 or 10, somewhere around there. It's called 31-10. Birds.
31-10.
Do the
birds.
math for you. That's 21 points, babe.
Okay.
And that's a cover.
All right. Good for you, Steve. All right. So that's going to do it for us for week 10.
How do you wear the Tom Brady jersey and bet against him on the show? I'm just baffled.
Well, I can wear whatever I
You
want.
can, but why would you wear it if you're going to go against him?
Honestly, because it's the only thing that I can find in my closet because the damn shelves fell down. But anyway, that'll do it for us for week 10. Remember, if you're watching, like, subscribe.
You did it 3 times. That was good. You're getting better at that.
And only if you were prepared with the exit music, it would have been perfect.
I had it too.
Peace out.